So you have no doubts about what you saw that day is one of these undiscovered, large, hair-covered, two-legged critters running around this part of the country? No doubt.
It's been called a myth, a hoax, a backwoods legend. But what if Bigfoot isn't hiding anymore? What if the clearest proof yet has already been recorded, caught on camera, tracked by thermal drones, and documented by experts? This isn't campfire talk. This is the footage they don't want to believe. Backed by eyewitness interviews, drone surveillance, trail cams, and even scientific analysis, this isn't just another cryptid countdown. It's a documentary of disturbing patterns and mounting evidence. For years, the question has echoed through forests, podcasts, and headlines. Did we finally capture Bigfoot in the wild? The answer, believe it or not, might be yes. And while skeptics continue to dismiss the very idea of such a creature, the evidence tells a different story. One that's hard to ignore once you truly look.
Hard evidence, expert analysis, and facts that most people have never heard. If you've ever debated someone about Bigfoot, or if you're skeptical yourself, this is the video you need to see. Let's start with the question everyone asks first.
In this segment, we step away from speculation and step into the facts. Not just stories, 12 points of hard evidence, drawn from scientific investigation, trail camera footage, expert analysis, and historical anomalies, that build a compelling case for the existence of Bigfoot. Let's start with a moment that changed everything. In the late 1960s, something strange toured the United States. It was known as the Minnesota Iceman, a frozen body encased in a block of ice and displayed in shopping malls, sideshows, and state fairs. Some dismissed it as a hoax, but others looked closer.
We do, or at least we did. The Minnesota Iceman was exhibited across North America in the late 1960s, a frozen body of a man-like creature.
Among those who examined it were Ivan T. Sanderson, a respected zoologist and science writer, and Dr. Bernard Heuvelmans, the founding figure of cryptozoology. Both men had impressive scientific backgrounds. Both were trained to recognize fraud. And both came away convinced that the creature in the ice was real. Sanderson reported that the body exhibited clear anatomical features of a primate unknown to science: long arms, heavy brow ridge, flat nose, and distinct musculature. He believed it represented a hominid species, perhaps even a Neanderthal-like branch of humanity that had escaped extinction. Dr. Heuvelmans went further. After his close inspection, he published findings in an academic journal, calling the specimen Homo pongoides, a possible hybrid between man and ape. He asserted that it was biologically consistent and far too complex to be faked. These weren't casual observers. These were professionals, and they guaranteed the specimen's authenticity. So what happened to it?
Highly respected scientists, Ivan T. Sanderson and Dr. Bernard Heuvelmans, personally examined it and documented striking anatomical features that pointed to a real unknown primate. Heuvelmans even published a scientific paper identifying it as Homo pongoides, a potential evolutionary offshoot of early hominids.
Shortly after the growing attention, the Iceman disappeared from public view. Whispers suggest government interest. Others say it was reclaimed by its original owner and buried. We don't know. But what we do know is that two world-class scientists risked their reputations by declaring it real. Still skeptical? You're not alone.
This narrative only emerged after the original was reportedly replaced with a latex replica, a switch that conveniently allowed critics to dismiss the entire case.
There are two kinds of skeptics in this world: those who refuse to believe, no matter the evidence, and those who are willing to follow the facts, no matter where they lead. Let's talk about one of those facts: trail cameras. We now have tens of thousands of them positioned in forests across North America. Critics often say, if Bigfoot was real, we'd have a photo by now. What if we do? In 2012, a trail cam in Alberta, Canada, captured one of the clearest and most controversial images in the Sasquatch world. The photo shows a massive dark figure, sitting low to the ground. It's not a bear. The proportions are all wrong. The arm visible in the frame is long, muscular, and distinctly humanoid, but not quite human.
A reasonable, logical, clear way that hopefully gives you sufficient grounds to change your perspective on this matter. It's the militant skepticism that I do take issue with. The kind of people who make it clear that no amount of evidence, no matter how compelling, would ever convince them that an unknown... We may have. Several pieces of trail cam footage exist that show large, upright figures moving through forests. Figures that match eyewitness descriptions of Sasquatch and have not been proven false despite years of scrutiny. One of the most notable is the 2012 Alberta trail cam photo, showing a massive dark figure sitting in the woods with proportions that don't match any known animal or human. The visible arm in the image clearly doesn't belong to a bear.
And this isn't the only one. Dozens of similar images and short video clips have surfaced. Figures moving upright, often alone, always massive. They're seen moving through dense brush or quickly disappearing between trees. Experts in wildlife biology have reviewed several of these clips and confirmed the shape, gait, and proportions do not match any known animal native to North America. So why aren't these clips being broadcast on the evening news?
Bay trail cam sequence that captured a broad-shouldered biped walking past at night. Its sheer size, arm length, and posture immediately create intrigue. These clips, while not definitive on their own, are part of a growing body of visual evidence that trail cams are catching glimpses of something. It's rare, but the problem isn't really the lack of cameras. It's the creature's uncanny ability to avoid them.
Because in the scientific world, extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. And without a body, or at least DNA, many simply won't take the leap. But what if the DNA is already here? In recent years, controversial DNA studies have emerged. Some researchers have submitted hair samples, blood traces, even saliva collected from remote encounters. A few of these samples returned inconclusive results, suggesting primate origin, but not matching any known species. One researcher, Dr. Melba Ketchum, led a 5-year genome study on alleged Bigfoot DNA. While criticized for her unconventional approach, her team found that the samples pointed to a hybrid origin, a mix of modern human DNA with unknown primate DNA. The findings were never accepted by mainstream journals, but they remain publicly available and impossible to completely ignore. And so we return to the question that started all this. Did we finally capture Bigfoot in the wild? In a way, yes. Between historic footage, modern trail cams, high-tech thermal drones, and mounting biological data, the outline of truth is becoming harder to deny.
Billy ape, a giant chimpanzee with gorilla-like features, wasn't officially verified by science until the early 2000s. Nocturnal, nomadic, and highly intelligent, which further reduces sightings and evidence. Their reportedly long lifespan, low population density, and a strong avoidance of humans may help explain how they sustain themselves while...
For those who demand a body, consider the Iceman. For those who demand proof, consider the scientists who staked their names on it. For those who demand footage, look to the forests of Alberta, the depths of Appalachia, the thermal scans in the Pacific Northwest. And if that's not enough, maybe you're not asking for evidence. Maybe you're asking for permission to believe. You ever get that feeling like you're being watched? Not in the city, not in a crowd, but somewhere quiet, isolated, where every sound echoes and the silence feels thick. That's what one man felt deep in the forests of North America. He wasn't out there for anything special, no research, no hunting, just a breath of fresh air, far away from the static of city life. The trees were tall, the forest floor soft with moss. Birds chirped, sunlight filtered gently through the pine branches. Everything felt normal, until it didn't. The man had stopped for a sip of water when something shifted at the edge of his vision. He turned slowly, and that's when he saw it. A figure, large, dark, upright.
It's crazy.
It moved between the trees like it belonged there, not crawling, not hunched, but walking, with long, heavy steps. Its shoulders were massive, arms dangling unnaturally low, swaying slightly as it moved. It was tall, thick, covered head to toe in coarse black hair. But what struck him most wasn't the size, it was the way it moved. There was no panic, no fear. It walked calmly, confidently, like it knew this place, like it owned it, and maybe like it knew it was being watched. The hiker barely breathed. He raised his phone, hit record. You can see it in the clip. The creature doesn't turn, doesn't speed up. It just keeps walking, straight through dense underbrush, like none of it matters. Almost as if it's leading him or warning him. The man whispered to himself, "This isn't right. I'm not supposed to see this." And maybe he wasn't. For years, legends have whispered about creatures in these woods. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, forest giants. But they always vanish before we get proof. Every photo is blurry. Every video is shaky. Every witness is left with more questions than answers. But what if it's not just one? What if they're out there, many of them, watching us from the shadows, walking the same trails, hearing every twig we step on, smelling us long before we know they're there? Every year, hikers disappear. Campers vanish. Some are found. Most aren't. And the forest never says a word. So next time you're alone in the woods and the wind dies, the birds go quiet, and your gut tells you to turn back, maybe listen, because whatever's watching you might not be human. It was a quiet ride through the deep woods of Massachusetts. The kind of solo escape most mountain bikers dream about. No crowds, no traffic, just the sound of tires crunching over dirt and the wind moving through trees older than any town nearby. It was 2015, and this rider, armed with a GoPro, was ready to capture his day in the wild. The forest was thick, branches hung low. Sunlight barely pierced through the dense green above. It was peaceful, untouched, the kind of place that hides more than it reveals. Then, it happened. The rider slowed down. He'd seen something. Just off the trail, between the trees, movement, small, quick, but not in a way he could explain. It wasn't a deer, it wasn't a rabbit, it wasn't anything he'd seen on these trails before. It moved differently. He pulled over. The GoPro picked up the tension in his breath, the way the camera began to shake slightly in his hands. His voice dropped to a whisper. And then, a flash. A figure darted between the trunks, covered in hair, low to the ground, upright. It didn't crawl. It didn't hop. It ran, on two legs, like a child running through the woods, but wild. He panned the camera, tried to zoom in, but the thing had already vanished into the undergrowth, moving like it knew the land, knew how to hide, how to disappear before anyone got a clear look. Some might laugh and say it was a baby bear, but when you watch the clip, when you pause it, frame by frame, you see something else. The posture, the proportion, the strange grace in its movement. Something that doesn't add up. And that's what unsettled him the most. Because if it was a baby, where was the mother? For a moment he just stood there. The trail he'd loved for years now felt strange, unfamiliar, like the woods weren't just trees and moss anymore, but something alive, watching, deciding. Massachusetts has always carried its share of wilderness legends, but this was real, caught on camera. Brief as it was. So the next time you're alone on a forest trail, breathing in the silence, surrounded by nothing but woods, keep your eyes open. Because if that was a young Sasquatch, then something much bigger is out there too. And it's probably not far behind. British Columbia, the Tantalus Range, remote, jagged, icy. It was July 2nd, 20th, a clear summer day in the high Alpine. Wildlife biologist Miles Lamont was hiking near Squamish, Canada, when he noticed something unusual.
We're on top of Tricuni Peak, and pretty sure there's just Sasquatch down there.
Oh my god.
I can't really see it very well. There's this little black dot walking in the middle of the snow, in the middle of nowhere.
High above the valley floor, near 7,000 feet elevation, a tiny black figure moved across a snowy ridge. From that distance, it looked like a speck. But it wasn't still. It was climbing. Fast, upright, deliberate. Lamont caught it on film, puzzled. "If that's a human," he said.
Why would he walk up that way? If that was a human, why would you walk up that ridge? Or that snow line? Why would you not just go straight down?
Why would they be walking up that ridge? No one hikes uphill into the cold unless they have a reason. And certainly not without gear. No backpacks, no snowshoes, no visible equipment. Just a lone, dark figure moving across deep snow as if the terrain didn't matter. Lamont, an experienced outdoorsman and wildlife biologist, had seen plenty of backcountry travelers.
Good thing we brought beers. We could lure him over here. Dude, that's bizarre.
This wasn't like any of them. His voice in the footage carries a strange mix of curiosity and tension. He even jokes, maybe if we had a few beers we could lure him over. But he's unsettled. This was not quite like any of those, he later said. It was a bit different. The video stirred up waves online. Debates erupted. Was it a person? Or something else?
We're in the middle of nowhere right now. I don't know how high we are, but we're probably close to 7,000 feet. 6,500 maybe.
That's when a man named Peter Tennant, or Ridgewalker Pete, stepped forward. He claimed the figure was him. A solo hiker from White Rock, BC, Pete said he had been in the area that same summer. No pack, no snowshoes, just an emergency locator. He was exploring. Simple, harmless. But then, the timeline unraveled.
But I mean, he's hiking through snow like it's his job. And where the hell is he going? I mean, there's nowhere to go that way.
Pete claimed he was on Tricuni Mountain during the last week of July. Lamont's footage, dated July 2nd, 3 weeks apart, different locations, same range, but not the same day. So if it wasn't Pete, who or what was it? A figure, alone, high in the snow, without gear, moving quickly where few dare to tread. In the deep wilderness of British Columbia, far from roads and watchers, maybe legends walk the ridgelines after all. And sometimes, we catch them on camera.
What is he doing? Like, what is over there? Nothing.
I don't...
No roads.
Let's take you deep into the heart of Canada's Yukon Territory, a vast and untamed wilderness stretching nearly 500,000 square kilometers. Here, the land is ruled not by skyscrapers or traffic, but by ancient forests, snow-dusted mountains, and silence. The few highways that run through this territory are surrounded by sheer isolation. It's a place where nature dominates, and where something else might still be watching. In the Yukon, outdoor life isn't just a hobby, it's a way of being. The people here, Yukoners, grow up wandering the woods, respecting the land, and navigating solitude. But among some locals, especially those who've spent decades in the backcountry, stories begin to surface. Stories not of wolves or bears, but of something far more mysterious. They call it Sasquatch, Bigfoot's northern cousin. On July 12, 2011, a Yukon man named Ed Trish had an encounter that he still can't explain. A seasoned outdoorsman, Ed knows the forest better than most. He knows how animals move. He knows the pace of human footsteps. So when he saw a tall, dark figure walking strangely along the tree line that day, something felt wrong. Ed described the movement as unlike a man's gait, too smooth, too heavy, too deliberate.
Man walks like this, right? He walked like this. And he kept a good pace, you know.
His curiosity kicked in. He drove a little closer and watched. But just as suddenly as it appeared, the figure was gone. No trace, no sound, just trees. He didn't tell friends. He didn't go public.
And I drove up right up front, and I said, I'll wait till he comes around the telephone pole, and he was gone. I was, just sort of looking. I said, what's going on? Never saw him again. Disappeared right there.
He only shared the story with his daughter, Rhonda, who, to her credit, believed him. Years later, as stories like Ed's gained momentum, experts began to take interest. One of them was Red Grossinger, a Canadian military veteran turned researcher. Since 2003, Red has dedicated his life to investigating Sasquatch sightings across Canada. He even published a book, the Sasquatch Research Manual, where he outlines methods, field strategies, and dozens of case studies.
People have told me stories. So since 2003, I've been really digging into the history of Sasquatch.
Red confirmed that the Yukon has a long and credible history of sightings. Locals report large figures moving through brush.
A big, something bigger than a wolf or a dog, or it was like nothing I'd ever heard in my life before.
Others describe haunting vocalizations, long, echoing howls in the dead of night. Some accounts match Trish's exactly, a brief glimpse of something tall and humanoid. So the question remains, what are these people seeing? Skeptics argue it could be misidentified bears or shadows playing tricks on the eyes. But those who've seen it, who've felt the air shift and the silence deepen, aren't so sure. They speak not with hysteria but with calm certainty. They know what a bear looks like, and they know what they saw wasn't one. The Yukon is massive, wild, and largely uncharted. If a creature like Sasquatch were to exist anywhere, this would be the place. And perhaps it already does, quietly slipping between the trees, seen only by those lucky or unlucky enough to catch a glimpse. This time, the hunt begins with a connection to the most iconic Bigfoot encounter in history. In a segment featured by the Travel Channel, investigator Bryce Johnson reaches out to none other than Bob Gimlin, one of the two men behind the legendary 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, the clearest and most debated Bigfoot footage ever captured. Gimlin, now in his 90s, remains a steadfast figure in the Bigfoot research community, still standing by what he saw that day along Bluff Creek. For decades, skeptics have questioned it, but Bob has never wavered. As Bryce contacts him, the stakes are high. One of the current team members has been hospitalized, forcing the operation to quickly adapt. Bryce asks Bob for help, not just for guidance, but for a replacement. A new set of eyes, experienced and level-headed, to join the mission.
I'm gonna reach out to Bob Gimlin.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bryce, mighty nice to see you again.
Likewise. How you doing?
Hey, fine, thank you.
Good.
How's everything going, Bryce?
I had to rush one of my team members to the hospital last night. I need to find a replacement for him immediately, and I was wondering if you might have anybody in mind.
I can get you some names and get it sent to you as soon as possible.
That'd be great. And these are people you trust?
Yes, sir. Good, trustworthy people.
Meanwhile, back in the field, Mariah and Russell are recalibrating. They're out in the woods, drawing up a new strategy. With recent sightings in the area and the right environmental conditions in place, the team agrees. This could be the perfect night to draw something out of the shadows. They waste no time.
In the time being, while Bryce works to replace RPG.
I really want to investigate that spot where I got that smell from.
This is where RPG and I went. This is where we saw the game trails. Bryce was actually able to load a supposed Bigfoot sound.
Operation begins. Mariah pulls out a speaker and plays one of the team's previously recorded Bigfoot vocalizations, a long, guttural sound believed to mimic a territorial call. It cuts through the trees and echoes across the dark. They hope it'll provoke a reaction, either from curiosity or challenge.
Hear that? Oh my God.
Miles away, Bryce is on the road, headed toward a new interview with a key eyewitness, Brian Zemp, a man who claims to have had a close-range encounter with a creature that defied explanation.
We used to climb alder trees. So we were having fun. All of a sudden, we heard this most guttural sound where it just projected and you just felt it.
Back in the forest, Mariah and Russell start to notice subtle signs. Not tracks exactly, but disturbed terrain, broken branches, displaced brush, and a faint trail leading off the ridge. They're not convinced yet, but they follow it anyway.
Well, that's interesting.
It's like something.
But quite honestly, I'm not sure what that is.
That's when Russell finds something unusual, a clump of coarse, dark hair. He bags it carefully, labeling it for DNA testing. They've found strange hairs before, but this one feels different, longer, thicker, and unlike anything native to the area.
My first reaction would be, it's a bobcat. But we're going to take it. There we go. Some hair right here. This is interesting. I don't know what this is.
The team is now split between direct investigation and ongoing interviews. While Bryce is collecting testimony and expanding their historical context, Mariah and Russell are in real time, pushing deeper into uncertainty. This next segment revisits Donald Mealer's unnerving encounter, but now it's supported by reinforced local testimony from a veteran hunter who also claims to have seen something extraordinary in the Louisiana backwoods. Donald Mealer, as captured by Animal Planet, isn't just anyone. He's a seasoned hunter. On an overcast day, he set up near a long pipeline corridor in rural Louisiana to hunt game as usual. Suddenly, he sensed something, a movement. He quietly lifted his rifle, and through the scope, watched a large, upright creature emerge from the tree line, one he would describe as unlike any man or bear. The creature turned and vanished so quickly Donald couldn't react further. He didn't snap a photo. "I'm not into all that camera stuff," he says, but the memory has stayed vivid since.
That day was kind of cloudy, overcast. Then I just decided to hunt that morning. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of appeared right there by the pipeline marker. I went to try to pick my gun up to look at it through the scope. I mean, he just whirled and went back in the woods and was gone.
Whether you take his word or not, there's supporting testimony from Mike Woolley, another experienced hunter from Keachie, Louisiana. In December 1981, Woolley was in his deer stand when a deer dashed through underbrush. As he looked up, a 7-8 foot tall, black, hairy humanoid stood at the base of his stand. At first he thought it was a prankster until the creature didn't respond to shouting. Looking through his rifle scope, Woolley realized it wasn't a man in a suit. Woolley's face-to-face encounter lasted only moments, but it was enough.
My name is Mike Woolley. I'm from Keachie, Louisiana. I had an encounter back in December of 1981 with a Bigfoot while deer hunting. It was a beautiful December day, perfect weather for a hunt. And this little young doe deer come running from the east out of some briars and brush that there's no way a human could walk through that. So the first thing hit my mind, it was somebody dressed up in a suit trying to scare me off my good deer hunting spot.
Like Mealer, he refused to sensationalize. He was collecting deer, not cryptids, yet he openly shared the experience. A giant, hair-covered figure coming within shooting range, refusing to answer. His account was raw, calm, and chilling. Their stories share key details: vast, quiet woods, fleeting sightings, instinct rising before vision. Both men are not the type to chase myths, but both walked into something unexplainable. Together, these incidents paint a strong picture: seasoned hunters and everyday people reacting not to bears or shadows, but to something upright, humanoid, and distinctly strange in the Louisiana woods. Donald Mealer may not have a photo. Mike Woolley didn't either. But for men trained to hunt and survive outdoors, sightings like these challenge what we think we know and hint at something much larger. What we've seen isn't fantasy, it's boots on the ground, eyewitnesses with nothing to gain, equipment that doesn't lie. Whether it's the vanished figure in Yukon, the heatless entity in Utah, or the chilling stare through a hunter's rifle in Louisiana, each moment adds weight to the same question. If this creature isn't real, then why do the signs keep showing up in the same woods, year after year? Because maybe, just maybe, we haven't discovered Bigfoot. Maybe it's Bigfoot that's been watching us all along. If you've had your own experience, drop it in the comments below. And if this footage gave you chills, you're not alone. Something strange is happening in Utah. The Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, one of the most dedicated research groups in the field, is on site at one of the most active Bigfoot sighting hotspots in the state, the south slope of the Uinta Mountains. This remote area is dense, rugged, and full of stories. But it's not just stories they're after. They've come for evidence.
But we're in a Bigfoot sighting hotspot on the south slope of the Uinta Mountains of Utah, and we come upon some downed trees across the road. A couple of trees.
Recently, a video began circulating, unclear but compelling. It showed what appeared to be a large, upright figure moving through the trees. The video didn't originate from RMSO, but it brought them here. And now their boots are on the ground. From the moment they enter the area, signs begin to emerge. Jenny, one of the lead trackers, locates a suspected footprint. Deep, defined, and larger than any natural track typically found in these woods. She documents it immediately, but she's cautious. In areas like this, such prints are unusual, but not unheard of. Still, the shape is off. The stride, unnatural.
And right under where he would have had to step and reach up, this is like the front part of a front print. It's big. You see the front, here's where the big toe is, and this is where the little back toe is. It was right here, like the front part of the foot. It would have stepped right there. And then while it was reaching up.
A short time later, the couple spots something more disturbing. 12 feet up a nearby tree, the trunk is snapped clean, not bent, not broken by wind, but twisted and severed as if done by immense force. Kelly, who has logged countless hours in the field, takes one look and shakes his head. "This wasn't storm damage," he says. "This was done by something."
Doing the snap off, and that snap off is about 12 feet up there. 12 feet up there, 4 inches in diameter. In my opinion, it's showing its size and strength. 17-inch foot. And look how little the types of leaves for this type of tree are, because this is a mountain tree.
Jenny scans the tree line. She heard a sound. Jenny hears it first. It's animal-like, but indistinct. A minute passes, then footsteps, slow and deliberate, just out of sight. Still they press forward. They've heard things like this before. They've seen it turn from noise to nothing.
We're gonna look and see if we can find some hair.
Over there?
Jenny has found a line of these structures. Did you hear vocalization too? Before we went on this hike, Jenny heard, what was it?
It went, whoo, like that.
I just heard a footstep in the forest.
Oh, great.
Just now.
But what they find next is harder to explain. Scattered across the forest floor are massive tree limbs and trunks, clearly relocated. The sheer size and weight of the timber would require significant strength to move, even with tools. But there are no tool marks, no tire tracks, no drag lines. It's as if something enormous picked them up and carried them.
Show them that that had to have been ripped out of the ground. That one right there.
Yeah, and relocated. There isn't...
Yeah, it was ripped out of the ground and brought over here.
So was that one? That one's snapped and broken.
That one, this is actually...
This one right here looks like the host.
The deeper they go, the more signs they find. Prints, snaps, and cracking branches echoing through the woods like whispers of something just beyond view. The group begins to document, measuring each track, logging GPS coordinates, comparing impressions. The tension builds. They're in deep now. The sun begins to dip, casting long shadows between the trees.
All right, Jenny's gonna point out this track she found.
It's old as well, but under here, you can see where that toe right here.
Oh yeah, you can see the entire width of it.
The whole, all the toes. And then when I measure it.
They know they can't stay out here much longer. The further the sun falls, the thinner their margin of safety becomes. As they prepare to head back, the forest reminds them it's not empty. A sharp crack, then another. The unmistakable feeling of being watched. They don't run, but they don't linger either.
I wonder how long this boulder's been here, because it looks like it landed on a living tree at one time. Perhaps within my lifetime, it rolled down the mountain. It looks like I can see an ancient swath of destruction that way.
Interestingly, this isn't the first time Utah has delivered something truly unnerving. Just a short distance away, in Provo Canyon, one of the state's most viral Bigfoot encounters occurred. In 2012, a group of hikers was walking a trail when they noticed something large moving in the trees. Thinking it was a bear, they started recording. But what they captured was not what they expected. The footage shows a massive bipedal figure standing upright before quickly turning and charging toward the group. The hikers scream and flee. The video is shaky, but the silhouette is unmistakable. Not a bear, not human, but something else entirely. That footage now has millions of views online. It's been examined, debunked, re-examined, and still remains one of the most chilling Bigfoot clips ever taken.
Probably should be too close to it, huh? Oh, cool though. Let's go.
And now, the Uinta Mountains, less than 100 miles away, are showing the same signs. It's not just one footprint or one video, it's a pattern. These are the kinds of findings that groups like RMSO live for, not because they prove the creature's existence outright, but because they stack the weight of possibility just a little higher. And if the possibility grows strong enough, the line between myth and reality starts to blur.
Well, look at that.
We're in a Bigfoot hotspot, and we're finding Bigfoot evidence.
There's more of them all woven, right through those trees right there.
I know, I wonder if it... I'm going to step over this track in case we come back to it.
As the couple exits the forest, night settling fast behind them. They don't have all the answers, but they do have data. Tracks, measurements, sounds, snapshots of something that doesn't belong in the wildlife guidebook. They weren't expecting a face-to-face encounter. They came for the signs, and this time the forest gave them plenty. It was sometime after midnight when things took a strange turn. A team of 3 Bigfoot researchers, working under the DMAX UK banner, were deep in the wilderness, an unmarked forested zone far from urban noise or interference. The night was quiet, almost unnaturally so. Armed with flashlights, camera gear, and night vision support from a command center miles away, the group pressed on, more hopeful than convinced, waiting for even the smallest anomaly to justify the risks of a nocturnal expedition. But then something happened. Something neither of them could quite explain. Both froze. One instinctively lifted the torch toward the slope. The other just muttered under his breath, "Was that walking on 2 legs?"
Okay, just explain what you just saw that we both just saw.
It was a black shadow in my light running from right to left.
And it was on 2 legs.
Seriously, I don't know what that was.
What is happening?
2 of the researchers, Ronnie and Maria, had stopped near a ridge to assess their route forward. That's when they caught it, a figure. Not in full view, not clearly defined, but there in the peripheral edge of their flashlight's reach. Tall, upright, moving. It wasn't just the movement, it was the way it moved, smooth, silent, deliberate, not crashing through the underbrush like a deer or bear. It moved like it knew they were watching, and it didn't want to be seen. Then the rocks started falling, not rolling down naturally, thrown. Small stones pinged off nearby trees and landed near their feet, one after another. That changed everything. Now they weren't just looking for something, they were being watched. Their voices remained hushed, but panic had crept in around the edges. They weren't sure what they saw, but they knew they saw something. A shadow, tall and lean, crossing the ridgeline against the backdrop of stars. For a moment they stood silently, straining their ears and eyes in the dark, trying to confirm it.
No, it's further that way. And it went from right to left. Now it's further that way. Let's keep walking and see what happens.
Ronnie and I were shining our light up on the ridge because of the rocks coming down, and very clearly something walked in front of that light, creating a shadow.
The 2 immediately called in the sighting to the command center. Their voices were urgent, but not exaggerated. This wasn't theater. It was raw reaction, genuine confusion, possibly fear. They described the figure, the movement, the stone throwing. But when asked for more specifics, neither could fully articulate what they'd witnessed, because they didn't know.
Hello?
Hey, Bryce, it's me and Ronnie here.
Hey, guys.
Hey, man.
It's really late. What's going on?
We have come out to a spot where we're getting an unusual amount of activity.
We just had some crazy stuff happen to us.
What happened?
I saw a huge figure by the top of this ravine where all these rocks were being thrown at us.
Later that night, back at camp, Mireya lay restless. Even hours after the incident, something still didn't sit right. She swore she could still hear faint movement just beyond the tree line. Crunches in the leaves. Subtle. Paced. As if whatever had been out there hadn't gone far.
We just experienced something so bizarre, and I've been debating whether or not to do this video diary because I'm so conflicted. I know what I saw, and there's a part of me that doesn't know how to explain it.
The next morning, they returned to the ridge. The air was colder now. The adrenaline of the previous night had worn off, leaving behind a lingering sense of doubt. Were their minds playing tricks on them? Was it just shadow and wind? Or had they actually seen something real? They scanned the terrain above the slope, trying to retrace the moment. No clear footprints, no broken branches, nothing definitive. But something about the location still felt charged. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was expectant.
I don't know about you, but I've been tripping out over that shadow figure. I'm still scratching my head on that.
Ronnie and Maria are headed to the ridge above where they spotted a mysterious shadow just hours ago.
It's pretty strange.
But first, they've planned a rendezvous with Bryce.
That's when Bryce arrived. While the others were out in the field, Bryce had been working behind the scenes, analyzing the raw footage taken during the encounter. He'd used basic editing software to enhance contrast, slow movement, and adjust the shadows. And what he brought to the team was hard to dismiss. The original clip was replayed, and as expected, it was hard to make out. But then, frame by frame, Bryce rolled through the enhanced version. Its motion was smooth, unhurried, and, most disturbingly, it seemed to blend into the surroundings almost as it passed.
An outline.
Right.
But we don't really know what was causing that shadow. I mean, there was nothing between us and that rock wall
But
except
I believe
the river.
there was.
What do you think then?
Bigfoot have, and this goes back to Native American lore, they have this ability referred to in the researching world as cloaking, or the ability to go invisible.
Bryce had a theory, and it wasn't new. A year earlier, he had met with physicist Dr. Michael Masters, a man who didn't laugh off the idea of cloaking or invisibility as myth. According to Dr. Masters, nature is filled with animals that camouflage. The idea that a higher-order species, especially one evolved to avoid human detection, could have a form of cloaking, whether biological or environmental, wasn't out of the question. Could it be optical camouflage, thermal redirection, or something even more advanced that we simply don't understand?
Turns out invisibility we actually know how to do, right? If we can figure out how to make it in the lab, it's not unreasonable to assume that biology could have figured it out through evolution.
That would make sense if you had a Bigfoot that was in front of us cloaking. We couldn't visually see it with our own eyes.
The team didn't jump to conclusions, but they also couldn't dismiss what they saw. The footage wasn't conclusive, no, but it was strange. Stranger than any bear sighting. Stranger than any trick of the light. What rattled them wasn't just what they might have seen, but how easily it slipped away. To this day, the clip remains one of the most hotly debated moments in Bigfoot investigation circles. Some insist it's just a shadow, a coincidence of lighting and movement. Others see it as possible evidence that these creatures have abilities well beyond what we've assumed. Whether it was trickery of light or a glimpse into something truly beyond explanation, one thing is certain. The wilderness held its secret, and it wasn't ready to let it go.
I'll check back in with you
Thank
guys
you.
later on.
Thanks.
Nice work. All right.
I am now more confused than maybe before, but relieved that what we saw is now on video.
That's incredible.
This footage is shocking. I really thought this was going to give me the answers I was looking for. And now, even after seeing that footage, I'm no closer to understanding what made that shadow. And that doesn't sit.
It was just another quiet evening in rural South Carolina. For Chris Cahill, a local resident with no interest in legends or folklore, it was meant to be a routine drive, nothing more. This moment comes to us courtesy of Animal Planet during a Bigfoot field investigation series. The team had arrived in South Carolina to meet Chris, not to run night vision tests or launch a search party, but simply to hear his story, a first-hand account that would send chills down anyone's spine. But something changed that day. Something Chris would never forget. As he pulled into a familiar roadside area to drop off some mail, he noticed something unusual. Something that froze him in place and challenged every assumption he held about the world around him.
Yes, ma'am. This is where it was. Basically what happened, I pulled up in my vehicle and I put the paper in a tube. And something caught the side of my eye over here, shape.
Chris begins his recollection calmly. He describes how he was driving up to a mailbox along a wooded stretch of road. Nothing out of the ordinary. He parked his car, slipped the letter into the box. That's when something caught his attention in the brush. He drove his vehicle forward a few feet to face what he heard, his curiosity leading him to the beast. At first, it was just a feeling, an awareness. Something was there, just beyond the trees. He adjusted his gaze, and then he saw it. A large, upright figure standing at the edge of the woods, staring back at him. It was big, Chris said. Tall, massive, and then I saw the eyes.
I pulled in a little bit more so I could face it. This figure was walking along that tree line right there. Turned around and it looked at me, and I saw these big red eyes. It was big. Looked at each other for seconds, and then I got really scared and I drove off.
He describes them with remarkable clarity. Not just bright, but glowing, red, unmistakably red. He blinked. Once. It just stood there, staring back for a few seconds. Chris froze, his mind scrambling for a rational explanation. Could it be a person? A bear? But nothing matched the size or the posture. This thing was standing tall, on two legs. It wasn't hunched. It wasn't running. It was just there. Frightened, he put the car in reverse and backed away from the tree line. His eyes locked on the creature the entire time. As he pulled off, the figure remained still, watching, until it finally stepped backward into the woods, swallowed by the fading light.
So you first catch a glimpse of it, and you're not quite sure what you're seeing, and then you turn your car in, and especially that second time, you've got the lights on it. Can you describe just everything that you saw?
The Animal Planet crew listened to his story with quiet attention. There were no dramatic reenactments, no speculative analysis, just the weight of Chris's words, spoken plainly without embellishment. He wasn't trying to convince anyone. He was just telling the truth as he lived it. What makes this encounter even more eerie is its mundane setting. Chris wasn't out hiking in remote forests. He wasn't hunting or filming. He was doing something we all do, running a simple errand. That's what makes it stick. And yet, this story lines up with dozens of similar Bigfoot accounts across the United States. The towering figure, the upright posture.
Because it was kind of like hair in it, but the eyes, I mean, they just came up through the amount of hair I saw. They were real bright, and they were about, I mean, from that distance, they kind of looked about like this. I mean, they were big.
And above all, the glowing red eyes. And if you thought the glowing red eyes were unsettling, consider this next encounter from 1978. Sergeant Edwin Godoy, a U.S. Army soldier at Fort Lewis, came face to face with a towering, hair-covered figure some 300 meters away, illuminated only by its own red eyes. He fired at least one shot, heard an inhuman moan, and by dawn found footprints and greenish fluid at the scene. Godoy was medically examined, and the incident was officially documented, before being sealed under military review. His testimony remains one of the most credible, chilling accounts of a red-eyed Bigfoot. Maybe you came into this video skeptical, expecting blurry footage and overhyped stories. But what you've just witnessed is something else. A researcher tracking a blood trail to an upright figure that limps away. A ridge encounter that ends with stones being thrown from the darkness. A police officer frozen in place, staring down glowing red eyes. And a soldier who didn't just see something, he shot it. Each of these moments stands on its own. But together, they form a pattern, a chilling reminder that something is moving through our forests. And it's not just myth or legend, it's documented, repeated, consistent. We may never catch it in a lab or explain it with science, but we can't keep pretending it isn't there, because the people who've seen it never forget it. So the next time you're driving down a dark road or standing at the edge of the woods, ask yourself, what if you're not alone? Sometimes you head out thinking it'll be just another quiet day. That's what they thought this morning. But this place? It always delivers something strange. The Sasquatch Habitat Investigation Team returned to a drained Oregon reservoir, the same spot where they'd found prints before. The ground was wet, the air crisp, but the rain had paused just long enough for a new search. They weren't alone. Carrie from Lane County Bigfooters joined them, ready to track. The place was calm at first, just human boot prints in the mud, old trails, nothing unusual. But deeper in, things shifted, tracks appeared. A straight line, deep, pressed into the soaked earth. Not booted, not barefoot either, just strange. Watch this part.
Okay, so I was walking along here and saw these tracks that are pretty much all in a straight line here. One right here.
Oh, they're going this way, aren't they?
Yep.
Well, that's where the other ones are going too.
That is... doesn't look like a boot.
The prints went up a hill. The stride was wide. Old, maybe. But one print had toe shapes at the top edge. Faint, just enough to raise questions. They measured 13 inches. Not fresh, but not from the last visit either. Tracks climbed over small hills, across soft earth, but none clear enough to call definitive. Still, they didn't stop. Reports had come in from nearby. New tracks, tree damage, possible activity.
Friends of ours have found tracks and a lot of tree damage and whatnot, so we're going to go up there and have a look. It's maybe about 10 miles, so we'll go and have a look, but it's kind of up in that area if we don't get snowed out.
The team moved to another location, but heavy snow blocked the mountain road. No way through. They crossed a bridge instead, scanning the riverside. Quiet, beautiful. But then something caught their attention. Later that day, hiking the other side of the river, more tracks, fresh deer prints nearby. But mixed in, larger impressions. Deep.
Carrie's following this little rivulet the other way. She may have seen something, so I'm going to head over there. But even though it's been raining for days, you know, these prints are deep, and you know, here's my footstep. If you even jump on it, I mean, I barely make an impression like these.
Here's mine. Nope.
One print had clear toes, 11 inches. More followed. Left, right, left. A trail heading toward the trees. And then the odd part. The tracks went down into a steep, wet area. Barefoot. Who would be down there in winter barefoot? It didn't make sense. The deeper they went, the more they found. Toes showing clearly in the mud. Watch this part.
They're not very big and they're not very far apart.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense. Now we got good squish here. Definite toes in that. Man, look at those.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. That's probably the best one we've seen all day.
One print was perfect. Every toe visible. It was smaller than expected, 10 inches across, but the stride didn't match the size. The steps were spaced like something tall had made them. Near the tracks, the team found strange rock circles.
And why go to all the trouble of building this, especially with rocks that are that big? I mean, that rock is huge. I'd never be able to carry that.
They looked like fire rings, but there was no sign of any fire. No burn marks, no wood. Just big, heavy rocks stacked for no clear reason. Watch this.
See, I mean, it's been raining for 3 days. Look how deep that print is. I'm going to step right here, and I'm a good 275, and I'm putting my weight in this thing, trying to get deep, and that's as deep as mine goes, right here.
One of the fire rings hadn't been there a few months ago. They'd been to this exact spot before. This was new. Back near the prints, something else didn't add up: the depth. The team pressed their own weight into the same soft ground and barely left a mark. But the unknown prints sank deep. How? Even in rain-soaked soil, the difference was obvious. More prints led them further in. The stride was massive.
4 across. 10 down.
You can certainly see every toe in there.
Yep, that's a good one.
Every one of them.
Nearly 4 feet from heel to heel. But the prints themselves were only about 9 inches long. That spacing didn't make sense for a person. It just didn't fit. They circled back to the odd fire rings. The fresh ones hadn't been there last time. No burn, no clear purpose, just heavy rocks placed in a circle. Why would anyone do that? In one last spot, they found another strange track. Narrow heels, clear toes, no slide marks. Watch this part.
But that's definitely a very narrow heel for right here. Anyway, I just wanted to show that because it's kind of one of the typical things that we find that doesn't really fit with your standard human track with a heel that narrow. It's very odd.
The track pattern didn't match a normal human print. It was like the heel had pressed straight down without dragging. And near it? A tiny footprint, small, almost like a juvenile. What's your take? Are these tracks something else? Would you walk barefoot in this cold, muddy place? Drop your thoughts below. Let's figure this out.